All right, y'all, we are back with another episode of Bill Collective, and we got to get into this recap. It's your boy, DJ Richie Scott. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell button, and I want to dive straight into this episode. So, this episode frustrated me just a little bit because I did feel like several things just seemed kind of off to me, and I really don't know why they seem so off. Well, actually, I do, but we'll get into it. We start off the episode with the continuation of, the bells at the improv class where Latrice has just brought Dr. Antoinette Lyles back into the group. Well, it seems very short-lived because, Marie is talking about all she got to lose. Latrice is like, girl, what you got to lose? They going at it. Marie is getting in Letitia's face, talking about let her go, let my people go. It was going down. Finally, Letitia's able to get everybody to sit down. And, she really wants to invite everybody out to New Orleans or Louisiana. I think it's Louisiana. I think that's what it was. Well, I know it's Louisiana, but was it New Orleans? I hope it was. Anyway, so she's got a brunch thing going on, and we know it's not Bell Collective without a brunch, baby. Bell Collective and brunch are synonymous, if you ask me, especially with Lateshia being at the center of this show. So let's get into Dr. Antoinette Lyles telling Lateshia, because Marie is like, is Antoinette going? Is Antoinette going? Is Antoinette going? If I was Antoinette, I'd be like, that's Dr. Antoinette to you. But I guess then Marie could say it's Dr. Marie to you too. I mean, it's the facts, I guess. So anyway, here's what we got going on. Antoinette still is carrying a grudge based on the things that happened in the first season of the show. The first season of the show has really set the tone for the rift between Marie and Latrice, and that has never been resolved either. So Dr. Antoinette, while last week I said, there's a part of me that's kind of like, girl, you got to let it go. But I also feel like, too, I'm assuming that she probably feels like, dang, I let them punk me, or I let this happen and I'm not going to let that happen again. I want my lick back. So maybe this was her lick back moment, but I don't really feel like it was as much of a lick back moment because she got kind of put out to a certain degree. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't really know. Do I think she was flirting with, Letitia's husband and Marie's man at the time who was in and out of her life? I don't think Dr. Antoinette wanted either one of them, to be quite frank. So if I was Dr. Antoinette, I would be laughing my butt off because at the end of the day, it's like y'all having issues with y'all men. Why would I want men that I see y'all having issues with? And that's no disrespect to Glenn, because I actually really like Glenn. I mean, when you listen, here's the thing. It's interesting for me because, again, I've met some of these ladies and some of the men. So, to get their personalities a bit more in person, you can understand why someone might be likable in person, but we still got to talk about what we see on the TV screen that also sometimes disturbs me, right? So we got to talk about that. So we get into Letitia and Dr. Antoinette getting into it because Dr. Antoinette tells Letitia she's full of SHIT. Letitia says it back. The next thing that we see is a moment where they're, I guess, facing off with each other very closely with the producers or camera people or security or whomever in the way. We can't see, but it sounds like Letitia says, she put her hands on me. And then it sounds like Dr. Antoinette said she put her fingers in my face. So I don't know if it was a situation where, Letitia put her finger in her face and Dr. Antoinette smacked that finger and popped that finger out the way, but that's what it's given. The problem is we couldn't see it. So for me, story-wise, I'm kind of like, dang, like, why couldn't the camera be angled a little bit different? So the next thing I know, half the group is outside, half the group is inside. Akeisha got to go home to her kids because she got to feed the family. And so she, of course, is yet again riding with So Gucci. And in my mind, I'm like, Akeisha, where your car at? Because I know you got the coin. In my mind, you got the coin. I mean, you look at Akeisha and coin. Okay, there is money money in the making. Okay, the money is in the making. I feel like she printing money somewhere. So I'm like, girl, why you always ride with Gucci? Anyway, maybe she just don't like to drive. Because a lot of people don't like to drive. So maybe she just like, girl, you drive. I ain't driving. And if you got a reason to go and I can get back to my kids because we think Selena coming, girl, I'm about to get up out this scene with you. That's probably what more or less happened. Okay. So Gucci and Akeisha are outside with Dr. Antoinette and Latrice, who, again, Latrice brought Dr. Antoinette Lyles, so it makes sense that she's leaving with her. And, Dr. Antoinette is like, listen, I ain't got no beef with y'all, but my beef is with, Lateshia. She's the big problem in the group. Inside comes a scene that I just felt like this was too glossed over for me. Okay, it was too glossed over for me. Even the resolution of it later, it was too glossed over. In the spirit of just trying to get the collective back together, Tambra is like, you, Marie, come on, let's sit down. And she proceeds to tell her, listen, I would never do what you did. I would never go specifically to someone was in my past that I have a problem with, and then go and sit and listen to them, and then bring that information back to the camera, back to the show. And Marie is like, well, are you willing to listen to me? Are you willing to listen to my side? And so as she proceeds to tell her side, because I'm thinking she's going to tell us something good, I'm thinking that it's going to sound logical, and it does not. And honestly, Dr. Marie, for a doctor, in my mind, I'm thinking you could have came up with a better, reason for that. Like, the reason that she gives for going to meet with this man is because he hit up some girl named Keisha, who I guess Lateshia and her know, and wanted to get some information to them. And so in Marie's mind, she's thinking, well, that's something a woman would do, not a man. And when Tambra is like, girl, then that should have been your first red flag right there. What Marie says next is wild to me. At that point, she says, well, I wasn't thinking about you. That much is clear. You were not thinking about Tambra, her safety, her feelings, her security, nothing. But then we'll turn around and tell Tambra, but if I'm your friend, I should know what your beef is with this man. Why? Why should you know what her beef is with that man? Clearly, it's so traumatic that they won't even air it on TV. And so when you think about it like that, and I do have an issue with not knowing what it is, because in my mind, the resolution, it's like, even if you couldn't talk about whatever happened for maybe legal reasons or whatever, I don't know. What we could have seen was potentially the Marie telling her, I'm sorry. You know what? I didn't know your story, or something like that. We just see them walk off into the scene. And then the next time we see Latrice and Tambra and Selena at Latrice's event, Tambra is telling the group, well, yeah, we had to talk off camera. And she understood, yeah, girl, that was it. We're good. And it's like, oh, that's all we get? Like something like what Marie and Lateshia did with the whole Tambra situation, I really didn't like it. I thought that was major. I thought Tambra had every reason to be upset. But I guess maybe, and then for her to forgive them, in my mind, I'm kind of like, I get why you forgive them, specifically Marie, because she's really the one who kind of really brought it to camera. I don't know. I don't know that I would be that willing to forgive. But I do know that for me, my biggest belief has always been when someone tells you that they're sorry, that you move, that you just, that's where it starts and stops. That's where it ends for me. If you tell me you're sorry and I feel like you are genuine with it, then I gotta kind of let it go and move on. But it's just that we didn't see that. So that bothered me. Just me. We learned in a scene that just felt so odd. My heart goes out to Marie. My heart really does. I feel like a lot is happening with her and her family. And I think that, I am concerned for her safety because we learned that her house was shot up. And this sounded like machine gun fire based on what we saw with the video. That's very scary to me. And to learn that she lives in a gated community, that's that's some next level stuff right there. I don't wish that on anyone, but the scene is what I need to talk about. I feel like this scene was probably done after she had already told Lateshia about it over the phone, because I feel like they're probably really that close that she wouldn't wait for that long. And so because of that, the scene felt a little unnatural, because at moments I felt like they were smiling when I wouldn't feel like there's a smile that should be had. And it was just so jovial. It just felt like the feeling did not match. The feeling at certain points in the scene did not match the severity with which I took it. Because if you're telling me, girl, you gotta move out of your gated neighborhood, that's significant. Like, I don't even know how I would be feeling. And so again, my heart goes out to her. In my mind, the scene probably felt that way because everybody probably already knew, but they needed to have a conversation about it to really let because it was real life happening. So I'm going to assume that was it. The other scene that felt like a little put on to me by the guys was, they were at the barbershop / bar. I don't know. I can't tell but the concept is dope. Whatever it is, it was dope. So it's JJ has invited Willie, and they have also invited Glenn and Thanos, aka Latrice's husband. I call him Thanos because I feel like he think he got Emperor Almighty, and Latrice be having to try to get him together. So anyway, Cliff. Again, Cliff, you meet in person, you probably gonna like him because he's funny. All the men are actually funny in real life. I did not meet Willie, but the way that Willie was reading Cliff in this episode, listen, Cliff made it be known that he don't really like nor trust Willie, and Willie let it be known that he will read you down. So I don't know. If it was a pissing match, Willie definitely took the reins on that one. Okay. But Glenn then had to try to take up for Cliff and tell Willie, I don't like you either, because Willie and JJ have a podcast. Speaking of the podcast, they do their podcast, I guess, for the first time, all in the same space, because usually they do it virtually. So they invited the wives, and they talked the obligatory, how many times a day y'all gonna give it to me. I really be hating those conversations because it be sounding like the men just really need a blow up doll. Like it don't be about the women and what they need. The conversation is always really just about how the women can serve the men and serve the men's intimate needs. And I just be feeling like, do y'all ever think about how y'all can entice your women to want to, be intimate with you? Like, are you speaking her language in any way, shape, or form in terms of love making? Because otherwise, it just sounds like you need a pocket punani, or take that 5-finger discount and spank a wank down there, because otherwise it's really just giving be my servant and my slave. And it just be sounding crazy to me. And honestly, the women, when they indulge in the conversation, in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, like, y'all are two smart, sophisticated women. why do y'all even indulge this conversation? It just be mind-boggling to me, because I feel like if you want to have a conversation about intimacy, it should also include how the men can be serving the women as well. But it always seems like really one-sided on these shows, especially about, these southern groups of individuals, right? And maybe it's not even a southern thing. Maybe it's just a general thing, and I don't know, but it's just weird to me. Anyway, this episode was also it was pretty deep because, coming off of what we saw, if you guys saw Salt Lake City with Mary and her son and that conversation, and then to see this conversation between, Soguchi and her daughter D, about her daughter D going through this dark period of time, wanting to unalive herself, and, really just kind of like going through this dark space in the midst of, I'm assuming, trying to co-parent with someone who she is no longer wanting to be with, or they can't be together for some reason. My heart really went out to her. I feel like so many of us know that those moments, that dark space. And for any of you guys that don't know it, it feels like, I'm going to tell you, if you've ever dealt with anxiety or overwhelming anxiety, or the feelings of what you think might be depression, sometimes that depression kind of, it looms in the background like a really dark cloud. And so it takes a lot of work to understand when you're triggered and how to cope with it. She says that therapy didn't really work for her, but I just hope that she continues to lean on the people that she loves. I thought that scene was really touching. When they JJ is very interesting in this scene, because it seems like he is wanting more love and affection from D than his own daughters, which is wild to me. It's like he's so busy trying to teach them a lesson, but he is also so seemingly devoted to ensuring D's love that it's just strange it's a strange dynamic to me. Even as D is having her party for her beautiful daughter and Stark arrives, even I don't know what their entire interaction was, but even that seemed kind of strange to me. But at least Star and D are in a place where they can bring their kids together, and they seem like they're okay. The ladies all get together. Lateshia, Tambra, Soguchi, and Marie all come together and really talk about Letitia's, mammogram. They talk about, they comfort D. I thought it was really nice that Marie offered, to be a support system for D in the midst of her, kind of going through her own mental anxieties, maybe. The last thing that we see is something I feel like should never be done. Don't ever do this. In my opinion, do not ever do this. This is, let me tell you something. Cliff goes to visit Lateshia on behalf of Glenn, because Glenn has asked Cliff to speak to Lateshia about his decision to quit his job and go into the box trucking business. But there are details of the conversation that he left out for Lateshia, because in my mind, Lateshia must know that this is a box truck situation that he's going into. Like, they live together. Like, and haven't y'all had a conversation about this, like, at any point in time? So I'm kind of curious as to why Cliff knows more than she does, but I guess it makes sense since he's asking Cliff to go talk to her. But if I'm Cliff and Cliff learned this lesson, don't step into the middle of nobody else's marriage. You can give him some advice, but definitely don't take it upon yourself. Now, granted, it makes for an interesting and awkward scene, but don't ever, and let me tell y'all something, do not ever put yourself in somebody else's marriage or relationship. Do not ever do it, because you are going to come off looking crazy. It never fails. It absolutely never fails. You will be the messenger, and the messenger always gets what? Popped. Okay? So this, to me, completely unnecessary. Cliff, stay up out of these people's business. You got enough business of your own, it sounds like, to be trying to tend to with the openings of the restaurants and the things and all the businesses and buildings and all of that you should not have any time to be running over to Lateshia Pearson's offices to speak to her about being more gentle with Glenn. Let them two handle it. And actually, if you really want to take it further, they should be in counseling. But I don't even know if that's going to be a viable option right now, because we don't know what's going on with the insurance. So it's a lot going on. They're preparing to go on this trip. I'm ready to see it. I feel like they ain't really had a proper cast trip on this show, so I'm glad to see that we're going to be going someplace else and gathering the group all together, even though we know Soguchi, aka Shantae Sophia, is going to be exiting the scene stage left with her man JJ as soon as Selena step into the room. And I do want to say this. I appreciate Soguchi so much more this season because I feel like the stories that she is involved in are very, very intriguing and dynamic stories. And so this to me, again, is a better use for her than the petty beef that she had last season with Latrice that honestly really did none of us care about, because if you know anything about real estate, you know that that whole situation should have been avoided in the first place. So to me, this is giving what she needs because it allows her to really thrive in a situation that is true conflict. But it's conflict that we're wanting and rooting for her and Selena to resolve, because we know that there will always likely be tension because of JJ. But at least they should be able to come to some type of common ground, especially after that altercation. So that's my thoughts on the episode of Bell Collective. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below, and I will catch you in the next video.